everyone, it's Mags. I'm here to talk about my recent trip to Orlando to see the mouse, show you some of my trips with my disability scooter that I hired whilst I was in Orlando. I initially thought that I wouldn't need any kind of disability aids, but once I arrived and I found out how hot it was really hot. It was October. It only rained once, so if that gives you any indication of what the weather was like, it was lovely. It was 29 to 30. Now, for some people that might not seem very hot, but for someone who's coming from the northeast of England, that's hot for me. And once I got there, I realised that I would need some kind of aid and support. And so I arranged my disability access service whilst I was actually there and on site. I know you could arrange it online, but I've seen another blog where they said that you can only do it once you're actually in Disney. So I thought I would just go and see them and arrange it whilst I got there. They didn't ask me what my conditions were. They're not allowed to say, well, what's wrong with you? But they just wanted to ascertain what I might need and what service they could provide. And I explained the difficulties that I have with standing and walking for any distances. Also explained to them about my own sort of other conditions that make it difficult for me to stand for long lengths of time. And they were absolutely lovely, and there was no problem at all. And I would recommend it if you are having some difficulties in that way. I wouldn't struggle. I would definitely suggest using the Disability Access Service. To me, it was an absolute godsend. Now, the other thing I discovered is that I obviously needed some help getting around. And so I went on to various websites, looked at reviews, and arranged for a disability scooter. I actually used a service called Regal Scooters, which I found to be absolutely top-notch. The scooter that I chose, or the scooters they provide, are quite small scooters. They fold up, not that I folded it up, but they do provide a scooter that folds. They were brilliant. They arrived on time, exactly as arranged. They explained how the scooter worked. They gave a spare battery. They gave a little cover in case it rains. They gave, obviously, a charger and all the instructions and how to get in touch with them. And there was absolutely no issues at all. They arrived on time to collect it, so you don't have to go anywhere. They deliver it to your resort or hotel or wherever you want it delivered, and they collect it on time. So I was really, really impressed with them. I thought it was a brilliant service. I had no issues with the scooter, except I would be careful if there's any little sort of bumps in the road, because I did fall over going onto one of the rides. And that was basically my fault because I wasn't looking where I was going. And there was like a little bump in the side when you were going onto the ride, and I hit the wall and fell over. But apart from that, it was brilliant. It got me where I needed to be. It wasn't super fast. It was really, really easy to get onto the transport. I've got a little bit of a video to show you me on the bus. On the Disney buses, they're absolutely brilliant, and I couldn't fault them at all. When the bus stops, they let anyone off that needs to get off at the resort, and they let the ramp down and let you on before anyone else gets on so that you can manoeuvre and get on. They're really terrific. They will help you to manoeuvre in place where the special sections are for the scooters. There are only 2 places, so if you're the third person, you have to wait for your next bus. But that's absolutely no problem at all. They're regular. You don't wait too long for a bus, and I found it to be absolutely brilliant. On the bus, I'll show you the little bit I captured of me on the scooter on the bus. You can stay in the scooter if you wish to, and they put a belt around you and secure the scooter to the bus. Or they will secure the scooter, and you can get off and sit in another seat. But I felt that I was taking up enough seats, so I stayed in the scooter. That was my personal preference, because I thought, well, I'm taking up 3 or 4 spaces on the bus that would have been free if I wasn't there. So I thought, I'll just stay in the scooter. And it was absolutely fine staying in the scooter. They're really, really good at making sure that you can get on and off the bus without any problems. They will guide you, they'll even get you on and off the bus if that's what you need. So it's an excellent service, and I really give a thumbs up to Disney and their resorts and what they provide for you. I found getting around the parks themselves was fine, except people kept walking in front of me, but that's something I kind of expected. And obviously little ones didn't pay attention, so I was having to be extra vigilant all the time. But that's absolutely fine. Kids are on holiday, they want to go to wherever something's exciting. They're not looking out for little old ladies like me in scooters. I did find trying to get round the parks using the little maps was a bit of a challenge, and one person stopped me and said, you're not supposed to text and drive, which was hilarious. And I just said to him, it's these stupid maps I'm trying to get round. I wasn't very good at reading the maps. I tended to be going off in the wrong direction, because I would think, oh, it's a line direct that way. When I looked, it was upside down, so I was having to turn it, or I should have been going west when I was going east, or south when I was going north, But I did manage to get round with it. A lot of the rides, they're absolutely brilliant. Getting on and off of rides was no problem at all. They would tell you in advance whether or not you had to get off your scooter and allow someone to take you into the ride. Because I can walk, I'm not totally incapable. I just can't walk and stand for long periods. So I got off the scooter in places where they said that you needed to get off and go onto a wheelchair. So I walked onto the rides. Stayed in the scooter to get onto other rides, and what they would do is you would get to where you needed to get off the scooter, and they would park the scooter for you at the exits. So you would get off the scooter. Sometimes you would be asked for the key, and sometimes you wouldn't. I was quite happy giving them the key, because I knew they wouldn't, no one else would get my scooter. They would make sure that it was secure. And times that I didn't need to give them, I was happy, because they knew how to put it in neutral rather than drive, so that they could wheel it to where you needed it to be. And I never had any problems or issues with getting onto my scooter once I'd been on a ride. The only problem I had was getting onto a ride. And I'll talk a bit about that. Generally speaking, I could get onto the rides, no problem. I did find some of them were a little bit iffy, because you had to step onto the seat, then onto the ride. But once I got my head around that, it was absolutely fine. And I had to make sure that I picked my feet up and look where I was going. I learned the hard way when trying to get off the Frozen Ever After ride, which is like a boat, that I needed to pick my feet up, because I slipped, and it is wet because it's on a so-called river, and there is water everywhere. And personally, I slipped and went flying but some lovely people helped me up and got me to my scooter, so I was absolutely fine after that. I did I did tell them that I was fine, but I'm just not very good on my feet. So that was it was no problem really once I got my head around how to manoeuvre. I did find, because I have issues with my eyes, and the condition that I have with my eyes means I can't see well in dim light. There were a couple of rides, Pirates of the Caribbean being one, where it is really, really dark in there. And I found it really difficult because I have this condition, it's a rare condition, and it means that my central vision's not brilliant, but low light, I'm really blind. And it meant that if there were steps, I wouldn't have been able to see them. So I was quite cautious, and I did turn my phone light on just to be able to see where I was going, and shone it at the floor. They did ask me to turn it off, and they told me to stand on a number that I couldn't see. But I did say to them, I'm really sorry, I've got a problem with my sight, and she was really good and took me to the number that I needed to stand on in order to get onto the actual ride. So I would be aware of that if you have any issues with low light and sight. That is probably one of my only sort of gripes, that they need to be aware that some people don't have great eyesight, and some of these darker rides are probably something you should be warned about. I went into the shops no problem. People were quite good at moving and letting, quite a few people said, do you want me to get you something from a shelf and that sort of thing. And to be honest, every day I need to do that because I'm only 4'11" anyway. So I usually have to ask someone to get something off a high shelf. So that was no problem. People were really, really pleasant and really did help. I also found getting into restaurants wasn't too bad, although, to be perfectly honest, I chose to leave my scooter outside. And that's the other thing, when you do leave your scooter outside, take your key, don't leave anything valuable, and it's absolutely no problem at all. I had no issues with anything going missing. I had no problems with people moving the scooter. I was quite confident to leave it. Obviously, if I thought it might rain, I put the little apron on to stop it getting damaged from rain, and I found a cover for it where I could leave the scooter rather than leaving it in the open. There's quite a lot of cover in case it rains, and so you have to be vigilant and know that you need to find some cover if you are going to leave your scooter outside. I found it was easier if I did mobile ordering before I actually went into the restaurant. And a tip for that is I would tell them you're there well before you're there. Because when I arrived at the quick service, it took a while for it to be ready. And obviously, if you're standing and you're in pain, it's not a great thing. So order it and see what the return time is for your order, and tell them you're there well in advance, and then your stuff hopefully will be there once you get there. As for what you get with DAS, I'll talk a bit about that. When they give you the DAS, they will ask you if it's suitable for you, because if it's not going to be of any benefit to you whatsoever and you've got more needs, I'm assuming they will accommodate those needs. But basically what it provided for me was the ability to book in for a ride. You can book one at a time. I didn't find that there were any restrictions on how many during the day, but then I suppose I didn't really want to do every single ride in the whole park. So what you do is you select the ride that you want in the park that you're in. It will come up with a little icon saying DAS, and it will give you a return time. You press the return time, you confirm that you're happy with that return time, and then you find other things to do before that time. So once that time's up, or at that time, you go to the ride, you put your magic band or card or whatever, or phone or whatever you're using to actually access everything. You put it against the little reader and they will look and make sure it's you. So you can't get it and just give it to anyone. All the people that are with you, like to help you or family, they have to be photographed as well as you. So when you arrive, it will show the person that's actually at the ride that it is you. And they'll say, "Hello, Margaret, come on in," which was really nice. And I had no problems apart from forgetting to actually confirm and then turning up. And interestingly enough, I turned up to a ride I hadn't booked for, and they just went, "Go ahead." And I ended up on the wrong ride, but it was a good one. I thought I was going on the People Mover and ended up in Monsters Inc.'s Laugh Floor, which turned out to be a hell of a lot of fun. If you haven't gone to the Laugh Floor, basically they pick people out of the audience to make fun of, or to make them do silly things, which was hilarious. And they kept picking on some poor person that wasn't really interested in taking part. So if you are, I would engage with it, and that way they'll go to someone else. But I was quite pleased I ended up on that, because I wasn't going to go on that ride. I found getting to and from the resort and back from the parks no problem at all. I found everything was convenient. People were pleasant. And to me, it was an absolute godsend. So I would highly recommend using DAS. I would highly recommend, if you need to get a mobility aid, ordering it. And as I say, there are many different ones that you can order from. So that was my experience at Disney. I would highly recommend DAS. I would highly recommend getting some kind of mobility aids. I would recommend telling your airline that you need help, because I didn't do that and I regretted not doing that. I enjoyed doing Disney. Next time I'd like to do Universal. So I'm looking possibly doing Universal, but that will be some time because I have to get over how much it cost at Disney. That's another thing, it's really expensive. So you have to take out a mortgage to go. But you have to take out a mortgage to pay your electric bill these days. So it goes hand in hand, doesn't it, that it's so expensive. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I'm probably going to go back some point, and I'll be utilising all of the disability aids that I can and all the services that you're allowed and that people have access to. And yeah, I would highly recommend it. So that's kind of my report, and I hope it's helped some people who are worried about going if they have a disability. I wouldn't worry at all, to be honest. Thank you. Please subscribe, hit the like button if you can't subscribe. Anything, any comments, anything that you want to know that I haven't covered, then just please leave me a message. Bye-bye. Yes, I've got plenty of time before I go build a droid. It's Ogre's Cantina. This is where you get the non-cone wrap. Darth Vader's getting himself one as well. Must be good. Quite looking forward to eating it. So I'm going to start now.